Yeah, so I think Jack DeBellin, just because he plays around 19, is probably just a sell and a hold. Sorry. Samuel Afenu, 23 break even, 547K. With him playing 19, are you still interested in him at a buy at all? Just put out a 58 last week.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're seeing him come into his own. 58 without a try, as well, which is something he hasn't put out yet. Like 58 is probably his highest score of the year. I think I'm seeing there.
Highest score of his career.
Um, the highest score of his career. So look, and before that, he's putting out 40s, 40, 50. I think he's starting to really find his space. I think now though, if you buy him, it's specific. You'd probably be looking to hold him for the year, someone that you can play on your bench or something like that. Because the value proposition that he held when we jumped on it blindside was like 410K, I think off the top of my head, was when we jumped on him. So he's made us a heap of money and he's still got a heap more to make. I could personally look at him as a pivot option if he falls in value, whereas other people who jump on later might have to treat it a bit differently. But look, he's 68% owned, top 100, 69 top 1000, 60 top 5000. Everyone's got him basically.
Yeah, I think he's pretty much close to just a buy, in my opinion. I do
Mm.
think the one thing that stands out for me is those last four scores just kind of, yeah, really became his own. And I think he will even be an 80-minute edge when Papali and Bateman are there, just because Bateman probably goes to lock. Like, Matamua is not a good, like, long term going forward option. So I think it'll be Bateman, lock, Papali, 12, Faino, 11, or whatever the numbers are. But yeah, I do believe that he is definitely one to buy. Like, you look at that 28 when starting, it was with a sin bin. So really, his lowest score is 32. He still makes money from that this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, um, yeah, Jaden Campbell, six break even, 632K. Is he definitely a hold? Like, he just put out an 89 at 5'8". We know what he can do too.
Yeah, and he's whacked out like a 60 odd before that, I think it was. Um, and then what? Yeah, he's got like another 80, sorry, an 80, 60, 50. Yeah, look, man, I think here there's four guys you want to put in a box, and it's Garrick, it's Preston, it's Galvin, and it's Campbell. And it's like, yeah, Galvin got injured. I think it was like 9% trade out rate that week, something crazy high for the year. And he came back 1 week after he was out and dropped to 70. And you're going to see people do the same with Campbell because they're struggling. But he covers around 19. If you move Campbell, I'm telling you, you're going to regret it. He won't be out very long as well. It's only a metatarsal injury. They're only like small fractures in the bones of your hand. It'll only take 1 to 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure the news is that he'll be back for around 19.
Yeah, especially
They're going to weigh him out.
with that six
Yeah.
break even. It's like you could be selling him at 750K, even a season long keeper when he gets that duel. So, I mean, I don't know what goes on situation when AJ Brimson's back. I don't know if it's Keeney that
Mm.
gets dropped, maybe Brimson to the centers or Brimson to 5'8". But I mean, Campbell has to be in this team either way. And with a six break even Campbell at fullback, if he stays fit, I'm still going to hold him for probably the most of the season.
Agree. I think with Campbell, the rotation, I don't think you can change the rotation at the Titans. I think that Keeney at fullback has cemented his spot. He's been brilliant on the field for the Titans. He looks so damaging in attack. And having Campbell so close to the ball, playing on the right side, I think he's playing on. Off
Yeah,
the top of my head, he plays more predominantly on the right side. That's where you could slot Brimson because I'm pretty sure what Kelly play on the left side. I vaguely remember. So
yeah,
you
I
got
think it's
Kelly on the left side, Brimson on the right, playing outside Campbell. That's deadly.
yeah,
With Keeney in between there as well. So I think that they could really put that together. Obviously, then you have, we want Brimson closer to the ball. He's kind of done what Campbell's done. When Brimson's close to the ball, he looks like a machine as well. I just think Campbell's more explosive. Hopefully, that's the rotation that they keep because that would benefit us Campbell owners a lot.
yeah, and he's got goal kicking too to keep in mind.
Yeah, keep his floor up. Yeah, what did he get? Like 11 or 12
Yeah,
goals
he was
last week?
11 to 22 points.
Yeah,
Goals.
crazy.
So yeah, Tohu Harris 54 break even, 646K. Got a 53 last week. Is there any interest in him at all?
100%. He's our buy of the week at Blindside. We were waiting to see whether he held the lock spot with Barnett returning and whether anyone else would get moved and he'd go back to that bench rotation, which has seen his score drop. And he's got it this week. So I think ideally you'd wait one more week to see if he gets it again and just cop that he's probably going to make a bit more money. Possibly. So I still got a break even in the 50s, I believe. So, you could wait the one more week to see if he gets it again, just to lock it in for sure. That's a sure thing, which is the way that I'm going to take it. Or you could jump on this week and get him at value and take the risk. I know a couple of people at the Blindside Faithful last week jumped on him in round 16, which was big. It's turned out to be a big pod play. So, I definitely buy.
I know I jumped on him last week too, just because something that really looked out to me is since coming back from injury, it's his PPM has improved. I don't know if it's because he's been off the interchange, but he's gone 42, 49, and 53. Sorry, 42, 42, 53 in 49, 44, and 56 minutes. So his PPM has gone from it's always been about the 0.85 when playing 80 minutes, but last couple of games, it's gone back to 0.9 when playing less than minutes, 0.95, which is something that was very interesting for me because if he could hold that PPM, maybe even put it down to a 0.85, he averages 65 for the season, which we know what he can do too.
For sure. And then if he loses the minutes with that heightened PPM, it kind of subtracts from him being back on the bench because it's not necessarily destroying his scores.
Yeah, like that 53 in 56 minutes. I know it was with a try assist, line break assist, and offload to hand, which all, I think, got him 11 points in one play. But, he is their most valuable player. There is no doubt about it. Tohu Harris is just, I don't understand. It really annoys me that I watch it. Channel Harris Tavita cannot tackle. And they've got him playing 13 over Tohu Harris, who is there. Like, they even said it on the TV. He just fills those holes. Like, there's a half line break. The player there to cover it is Tohu Harris. Like, he's the oldest bloke in his team. He's probably got worse knees than Jason Tamalolo, but he's still there to cover it. So, I really want to talk to the coach. I don't understand it. Play the 80 minutes every single week. He'll do you a job. He'll do us fantasy owners a job. Yeah,
he's a brilliant player. He's wrapped in bloody. He looks like a mummy out in the field, but he just always keeps churning out good performances. Yeah, I really like him. I think he's a good old hardcore player. God, spit it out.
You say you had another player in the same. Oh, Jack DeBellin when playing lock in the same breed as Cameron McInnes. I've got this guy above both of them. He's just
for sure.
I was watching. I think it was one of their wingers made a break, got past three tacklers, and Tohu Harris is just there, on the edge, there to tackle. So he fills those spots for that team.
Yeah, I like this shout. You've definitely hearing you speak about him definitely convinced me. Maybe I'll go up from Atco and into Harris again, which I've fiddled with as well. It just takes away from my capital, but look, we'll figure it out. There'll be more cash outs to come. It's not something I have to do this week.
Yeah,
I like it.
But going Joe Ofahengawi getting a 13 spot, probably full time now, 400 3K, 33 break even. Something that really tickles it is I got it filtered over 50 minutes, and he has one game in his career at the Eels playing over 50 minutes when it was, I think, on his debut game for the Eels, and it was at prop too, not lock. So I think if I just go to just them, you see, he's played a couple of games at prop, 2 at lock, and he's got 38 and 40 minutes. Just a PPM, though, it's disgusting. Is there any interest in Joel Fangawi at all, or nah?
Nah, not at that minute rotation with his PPM. Plus Madison, I'd be more interested in Madison, and then also wouldn't go near Madison because he's coming off the bench. But nothing for Fangawi for me.
I think he's definitely one you just let go through to the keeper. It could be a pod downgrade from Alex Toole, but I just don't think I don't have the guts to pull it. There's some good pod moves like the Tohu Harris bringing, and there's some silly pod moves, and that
for sure
seems like a silly pod move that could pay off and bring him back to some of his 2022 form.
Yeah, that was when he was busting out 70s and 60s and stuff. He was massive that year, but that was at Tigers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 780K. He was
far out.
He's been an Origin forward before, so Yeah, I've already spoken about Eli Katoa being probably the third keeper in that edge spot, or maybe the fifth, fourth if you add in Ewan Aiken too. But most people are playing him in the centres. But
Yeah.
60 break even for Ellie. I mean, we know he can get 60 any given week. He's gone 56 and 52 in the last couple of weeks. Is there any interest in Ellie at all, like as a pod play to the for feeders and Angus Crichtons? I know me, I am not picking up David Feeder this week. I mean, at all this year. I've spoken about it multiple times. Just doesn't have the base for me as the workload, So I think Eli Katoa for
Yeah.
me, it's that he gives me 50s, but then he gives me 70s, 80s when he scores those tries. But David,
Yeah.
I mean, so many times you see him stuck on 30 and then he scores a try
Yeah. And
and he gets
something
that
comes
60.
out to
Yeah.
bump him up. I feel ya. It is scary about Dave. The thing is with him, he just keeps doing it. But what you're saying here with Katoa, I think 100%. He is kind of exactly what I was just about to go on the same tracks as you there, is that if you're buying Katoa, you're buying it as an anti-pod play to David Fifita. And I think you'll probably find that David Fifita might slightly out average him, but there's going to be weeks there where Katoa scores way more than him. And you've just got to hope that that happens more or less,
Yeah.
well, more frequently. And it's only what, 7 rounds? Yes, or 8 rounds he has to survive for
Yeah.
in that period. I don't mind it at all, to be honest. I've talked up the idea about getting him. You definitely wouldn't get Fafita and Katoa. I
No.
think that's too volatile. Yeah, you want consistency there. Yeah, Katoa, I think, is a great shout. Look, 27 people own him in the top 100. I think you'd probably find that the other 73 own Fafita. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
an interesting play.
But just for me, it's like Titans, good team on their day. They can wipe any team off like we just saw it. But Melbourne Storm, they're my tip for the premiership this year.
Oh,
Eli
interesting.
Katoa is probably playing on the best team next to the best halves. He plays next to Jerome Hughes, next to probably the
Mm.
best half this year. So I do think, I mean, for me, it's just something that you talk about upside. Playing on that team next to that half with probably the best hooker in the game too, and probably the best fullback in the game, and probably the best 5'8" in the game when he is playing like probably the best winger in the game. Like it's just ridiculous. You could say they probably have the best position in every single position. But
Yeah,
yeah,
great
without me
quality.
ranting, I do think it's a very strong buy. Never thought he'd be a buy at 727K though.
Yeah, he's expensive now. You'd be buying him, yeah, as opposed to going to Fafita. But I personally I would wait to see him until the end of the Origin period. Hopefully, he has a few slower games. If you own him, I'm sorry, but yeah, if he has a few slower games and maybe drops under that 700K mark, like slam dunk, you'd be going that way over Fafita every day of the week.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, so kind of not really a cash out option, but 379K you could use as a cash out. Jarrell Skelton put together 56, and I believe he's held a spot this week.
Yeah, he's got the
Yeah.
spot this week, which is the only challenge I can see him losing that spot's when Tracy comes back, but that's likely going to result in Taff just getting dropped, and then you've got to
Crichton
think
too.
when does that what's that, sorry?
When Stephen Crichton comes back, because you've got
Stephen
Raz
Crichton.
in the centers now, and Bronson
Yep.
Xerri.
And then Series comes back.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be competition for position. And when all of those players come back, I think you're going to find that usually it is Karaz and uh
Blake Wilson.
Karaz.
Oh, Josh
Blake
Adokar.
Wilson, that's his name.
No, Josh
Blake
Adokar.
Wilson now, but Josh Adokar typically. I
Yeah.
think what you could find is that if you go for Jarrell Skelton, you're betting on the fact that he's going to replace Blake Wilson after this week, is what I
Yeah.
think will happen. And if he doesn't, you've wasted the trade. So with that in mind, it's like even though the break even's tasty, I think you'd wait just to make sure. And by that time, it could be too late unless he scores another 50. But look, I'm not into buying people on the wing at 400K that are value. So I'm like, well, they have to show consistency for me, like a Dominic Young or someone like that,
Yeah.
someone that's got history of upside, that's cheap, and you think he's a pod, he's lost value. Like even Dallin Watene-Zelezniak at the moment is
Alex
dirt cheap
Johnson
if
too.
Warriors find stone. Yeah, Alex Johnson. They find form. It's like surely they're going to go up in price.
Yeah.
So I'd be more inclined to go in their direction than Skelton myself.
One thing for me is just I've been following Paul Alamotti a lot this season just because he killed me last year but I know Skelton is a rookie that has been scouted very, like highly. And is he a Paul Alamotti 2.0? Like puts out a few good games, scouted very highly, but doesn't score very well at all. And then everyone jumps on him and he goes to another club and scores unreal.
Yeah, it could be the case. Like, but Bulldogs do play slightly different than they used to in the past, and that could be the consequence of Serraldo coming from the Panthers and then them having a bit of a different structure. But and I still don't think the Bulldogs have hit where they should be yet. I think they've still got improvement, which would be good signs for Skelton. But I just don't think I think it's way too soon for him. I think he's a great player, absolute great player. I've seen highlights of him when he was younger. He's insane, but I think that he needs some time in the top grade. Like Alamotti had a whole year with the Bulldogs, and now he's getting his shot at the Panthers. I think we need to see something similar from Skelton.
Yeah.
Get that sample size up.
He's probably one you just like go through to the keeper.
Yeah.
So you look at that 2.58% in the top 5,000. I'm one of those lucky owners. But
yeah.
I mean, I was talking to one of my other mates who's in the top 1,000, and I think he's top 1,000, and he owns him. Jumped on him last or couple of weeks ago. But is Jacob's time almost done at 677k? 42 break even. I mean, he's been plucking out some very good scores since I brought him in around 70 in round 12, I believe, playing 80 minutes. But I mean, is it almost his time done?
I don't know. I think if he's playing 80 minutes week in, week out, he's probably what you would consider at this time of the year, obviously depending on trades as well. But he's probably a backup hooker you sit on your bench. That's what I would treat Little as right now.
Because you couldn't
I think so. I think it would be. Yeah, you could definitely. I think the play would definitely be to upgrade him, but it would just depend on how many trades you've got. I think though, if you're in the market for a little, and you're looking to buy somebody in the hooker position, you'd be much better off, especially if it's this week, just finding a way to get that bit of extra money and taking on Cook. I called out Cook on Blindside Man in round 13, or just before round 13, and the posts leading up to the round, and was like, I'm predicting Damien Cook to be the highest averaging hooker from round 13 till the end of the year. Just the way that he was used after Dimitri left, I was like, oh, they need him. They're using his demand. He's going to go back to old Cookie. And I was like, it was a big outlandish prediction, but it's fully come off. And I think Cook's still got about 50 to 80K to make on his current price. He'll probably finish as top hooker this year, I think.
Yeah, just 53.2 average when playing 80 minutes at 677K. Sorry, 72 minutes. But I mean, that's still 5 points undervalued, and like very, very consistent when at the Tigers, and very consistent here with a lower score of 39. I do think that he is a hold until at least Brown comes back, Fuimundo Brown, that is, or maybe after the round 19 bye, you sell him to Cook with him having around 20 bye. It's probably the one thing I could do. With maybe them around the same price, 700 to 750K.
Yeah. Yeah, if Cookie doesn't hit a ceiling, like Cookie's average at the moment would be, not sure if you've got Cookie up there on your list, but I'll quickly search him now. I think he's break even's quite low, 33. So like he's got a 54 average. Let's say he scores. He's got the bye this week, obviously, but next week, I don't know if it'll give you the prediction on that. Let's just say he scores his average again. He makes another 15K and then starts to drop off on his price rises, gets to about 770. I think though Rabbitoh's coming home. He's going to hit 60s. I think as Cook's going to go back to his old self. I'm dirty. I don't own him, to be honest.
And I think the only if you look at your team and you don't have a Grant Cook Robson combination to finish the season, your team's pretty much a joke.
Yeah, I got Grant and Marnie. I'm running that. I'll run Marnie, half the joke. Yeah, but Marnie's he's missed tackles, man. Yeah. He would be out and out best hooker in the game if he could fix his defense up. It's crazy how many demerits he brings.
I was just about to say, for me, like, I'm a very weird fantasy player. Like, I think both you and me can admit that. But the one thing that I'm not going near Reed Marnie for at all is, like, I look at those missed tackles. It's just way too risky for me. Like, okay, it's a bit like David Fifita not making enough tackles. Marnie makes 60, misses 10. that's 40 points there. And I know Marnie, great player, gets try assist and that, but I just can't go near there. Sorry.
Yeah, he was a trade in for me because it gave me the early round buy or buy cover. And at the time I had more trades, so I was like, oh, I'll just fumble through, save my trades, and then now it's got to the point where I'm like, oh, I might have to consider holding him. But um, he's the second highest in the NRL for missed tackles. Currently on I think 68 or 69. I'll
Yeah.
quickly check now. I think roughly 68 or 69. What would that be? That's what 138 points he's lost in his overall total points for the year,
Yeah. Wow.
which is insane. 138 points. That puts him. This will be interesting. 138 points would potentially put him as the highest scorer in fantasy this year, which I'm pretty sure at the moment is Nico
Highest
Hines. I'm
averager
not
or
Nico
highest
Hines.
scorer?
Carrigan.
Because
Highest total points. He would be
yeah,
highest total points by 40 points in the
yeah.
league if he cleaned up his defense.
Wow.
So that's insane. Carrigan's on 827. So that's the names he could be amongst if he could have some consistency. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, I don't know if he'll find it. It's just the way he defends at the Dogs. It's all about rushing out of the line. He makes the first contact and gets bumped off. And look, it works well for the defense of the Bulldogs, but it sucks for him in fantasy.
Yeah. So I'm Dylan Lucas, 713K, 40 break even. I mean, again, not many people own him. I'm one of those guys. I mean, it was probably the worst day of my life when I looked at that round 14 team list and I saw him moved to the second row. Then coming into center, I was like, okay, we got something. Then he's put out a 72 and a 60. And I love this guy.
Yeah, dude, Dylan Lucas is a machine. I think we went over this in our last one. Just like the size of the bloke is so deceptive. He's so big. He's so hard to handle. I rate him. Hey, I'm gonna make a call here and say that he's up there with Katoa in
Yeah.
terms of scoring potential. All he needs is minutes and consistency. He'd probably outscore Katoa. I can see him as an 800K player if he can get that consistency on the edge and he doesn't have this competition. Like he can play 80 minutes on the edge.
He's a
So
much better
yeah,
player
it's
than
annoying.
Frizzell and KPP right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think Purcell's just a bit older now. He needs to make that rotation where it's like a 50 or 60-minute role. Maybe he could move to the prop rotation. I don't know if he's really a prop though. I think
Yeah.
maybe he could just make that rotation on it lock, and then you've got KPP and Dylan Lucas as you set and forgets in the edges. I think that's obviously the future for the Knights. That's why they've got both Lucas and KPP, but you're just not seeing it this year.
But even at centre, I think he could be a season-long keeper too. Because I don't know if you were, but I know before I started this podcast, Jamie Brown was massive on Dylan Lucas in the preseason. And
You love too.
I know I was like I had him in my team. And then I think Kaipi's Paul was on the bench in round 20, round one. So I didn't go for Dylan Lucas. And now I'm big on him again. I think he's not a must buy, but he plays round 19. Very good buy, I would say.
He's massive buy. I think my only concern is that when KPP is healthy again, where does he go? And looking from our perspective, it's like surely he goes on the edge, and Lucas stays on the other edge, and they play for Zell. It's like maybe, to be honest, the forward rotation should be like in terms of these key players, it should be Brayley playing 80, Crossland coming on to cover Frizzell at lock for that 50, 60 minutes, and then Crossland plays the 30, and then you just play 80 minutes, KPP and Lucas on each side. Like that makes
Yeah.
so much sense to me, but they don't play it.
They're weird coaching styles. Like, you look, David Armstrong got dropped after scoring a hat trick.
yeah, dude. The Knights, dude. A couple of my mates, I've got a real close friends group, and they're all Knights fans. So you know what it's like when you're around people that love the same team and you don't really like them. And it's just like, I've just got to the point now where it's like the only time I liked the Knights really was when Andrew Johns played, and now I don't really like them at all. I'm just like, I don't understand what they're doing. But I like Ponga. Ponga's a legend. I think he's a good bloke.
You gotta love Ponga.
But yeah, I don't know. There's just no consistency there. They haven't won a premiership for ages. They haven't even looked like competing for one. They just need consistency, to stop changing stuff around and just like be solid. Their halves, like I'd probably say they've had the most halved halves pairings this year out of any team in the comp. They just
Oh,
even though it's the same players, they just
be
keep
close.
swapping.
Yeah. But yeah, so just the one question that I got is, so when does it become time to stop planning for round 19 and look towards like the origin players? Like this week with an Edwards or Crichton are probably going to be season long keepers. Is it time to start targeting those guys over people that probably won't be season long keeper? Like if you're considering a round 19 fullback, let's say Jareen Buller, who plays 19, or Dylan Edwards, who's a season long keeper, but doesn't play 19, like when does it become their time to start targeting them again?
This is a really good question. I had this question asked to me in the Patreon chat, and I really wanted to get an answer because I just didn't feel solid in saying, "Oh, at this time you do it. At this time you do it." It just didn't feel accurate, and I was thinking into it for ages, and I've come to the conclusion. I'm like, "Well, how do I play the game? How have I always played this period of time?" And it was unconscious to me at the time, but I've made it a conscious thing now. It's not reliant on the specific time of a round when you buy these players. It's more specific in times with how many trades you have remaining. So most of the periods through the season, you'll find roughly from rounds 1 to 7, you have everyone's trying to trade to build value in their squad. By the time you get to round 7, there's a slight strategy pivot there where you need to start having buy planning for origin somewhat in your trade formation so that you're not obviously left out through origin. And over origin, it's about trade management, like try and save your trades. You've planned up to your origin period, say for injuries, or now this guy's not performing, let's pivot him. And once you get to about 8 to 10 trades, that's the sweet spot I've found. 8 to 10 trades remaining over the origin period is when you stop focusing on, I want this guy because he covers this round, but instead, I want this guy because I'm going to need him in my run home.
Yeah.
And that means that you're going to have losses. And I think that what I've noticed a lot now being a content creator is a very, very underrated skill that people haven't necessarily adopted on a majority level yet, is the ability to take small L's for the long-term goal. So it's like, oh, cool, you might buy I would buy Dylan Edwards in my position because I got 5 trades left. But some people will go, oh, but he doesn't play round 19. And it's like, well, maybe if you bought Dylan Edwards, though, you've got someone who you can set and forget for the rest of your year. And yeah, you lose one position of points for one round, but overall you save a trade because you're going to have to trade Buller out again, and you're going to get overall more performance out of him. So I hope that makes sense to the listeners when they go through it. We've also got a post on our page that is written up about it as well, that people can check out. But yeah, I put a lot of thought into that, and I think that's the way that it needs to be looked at.
Just for me, it's like, so I look at this, and I got a very Alex Twall next week for Olakau'atu. Like, we know he'll probably be in the origin side, but it's almost time to go from, I think, 665K. He's probably in that tier with the Fafitas, Katoas, Lucases, and Crichtons. I mean, we know what he can do. And that 12, if you get rid of that 12, he's probably 700K. So I think this is prime option, along with Cameron Murray and Daly Cherry Evans, for 3 players that underpriced, fresh off origin form, don't have buys left for the rest of the season, season-long keepers, and have been season-long keepers for 5 or so years. So I think, like, you look at it like, in my side, it could be Alex Twall to a Cam Murray, or it could be a Keon Kalonga-Matangi to a Daly Cherry Evans when I feel their time is done on my side. But I think, like, those players, along with the big guns, like obviously you got the Carrigans, the Yos, the Hasses of the world, the Edwards, the Crichtons that you want to target. But I think for me, it's more, you can target those guys any stage. Like, you can get in round 20. For me, it's more picking up players at their lowest price point. So I think round 18 is going to be probably Olakau'atu's lowest price point this week. And I've spoken to one of my mates about this a lot. He's plucked out unreal scores. So I actually do believe that, like, Olakau'atu in next week could be close to a must buy, even though he does miss that round 19.
Yeah.
But if you can afford
that,
and him coming off the bench in Origin means that less minutes in Origin means he'll probably play 80 and back up. Like we saw that last week.
Yeah.
So,
there's a question for you then. If I've had a gun to your head, who are you picking next week Tohu, if you didn't own Tohu Harris or Olakau'atu.
Oh, it's pretty tough. I mean, it probably depends on what your team needs. I
Mm,
would probably go Ola Kawatu just because he's in those top 5 keepers in the edges. While you got middles, you probably got, in my opinion, you would have House, Yo, Carrigan, Watson, and you'd probably have like maybe a Cotter and a Cam Murray as a season-long keeper over Tohu. But
mm.
in the edges, I think it's actually Ola Kawatu is probably the third or second or fourth option you go with as a season-long keeper, which
Yeah, that's a good shout.
is where my interest lies with Daly Cherry Evans. We know what he can do. He goes big, like 702K for Daly Cherry Evans is an absolute snag. So it's like after Origin, you think about, okay, you got Cleary, Hines, and Hughes, who are probably the slam dunk options for gun halves. But how long has Daly Cherry Evans been a gun half in this game? And he's kind of like the Yo. He's a gun that has flown under the radar so much. And you're telling me I can buy Jerome Luai for more money than Daly Cherry Evans is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's insane. I think for sure, Daly Cherry Evans is a massive shout for the run home. I personally can't look past Cleary and Hines. It's just that they've never been that cheap. $1 million players now down at the 800K bracket. Cleary's going to fall under that. There's no way in his comeback game he's going to score more than 80. So he's going to fall under 800 grand. That's crazy to me that Cleary's there. So for me, I look at that and I think, well, 90K more, I get Nathan Cleary. It's like, okay, I'd do that. But let's say you can only get Cleary or Hines. I think that Cherry Evans as a pick to contest with, it's like an antipod to Hughes is massive. That's a huge call. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I would not be surprised if we see Cherry Evans hit 900K on the run home. I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't shock me.
How good of a player is he? Like, you look at him in Origin, Queensland probably still don't win game one without him. Just his capability to be so calm under those pressure moments. And I think that the Sea Eagles, they need him. Like, they need him to fire for them to do well.
For sure. I got a theory about that. Do you reckon it's because his neck's so long that he can just see everything? So he just knows how to play?
Definitely could
Sorry,
be.
DCE.
He's a gun, I think. But yeah, that's just something interesting for me. And I mean, there's always interest in Cam Murray when he comes back.
I love that DCE shout. That's really intrigued me. I'm going to look into that.
For me, my halves pairings will be Hughes, Moses, one of Cleary and Hines, and DCE. I think I'm going with those four. I think you need four halves. Like, they're all underpriced. Like Moses, 695K is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. So you think you need 4 gun halves? Is that Zach how you like to run it?
Well, I just think like they're probably the most consistent and best scoring players in fantasy that you can rely on the most. And you can have 2 on your bench. Why not? Like,
yeah. Oh, I guess you don't have Galvin either. That's where I'm sitting. It's kind of like I got Galvin now and Brown, Weeks, and Wishart. It's like if I offload 2 of them to say a Cleary and a Hines, I'd say Brown and Wishart or Brown and Weeks to a Cleary and a Hines. Well, then I only run 3 halves myself. But then I've got Galvin, Hines, Cleary. But I don't know. I like your 4 spread a lot. I love DCE shout.
Yeah.
But this time I think I love that shout with Little. And then I loved your shout with Twal, and I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger. And then now I'm loving the shout with DCE, and I'm like, don't do it yourself, Jai. 3rd time lucky. So I don't know. I like DCE a lot.
DCE really and Olakau'atu, I think and Murray, those 3 are close to the must-haves out of Origin. If you want to anti-pod the big guns like the Yo or the like Hasses of the world, just because they're falling, like they're falling guns at their price. Like, we all know, but all 3 of those players can be over 800K and can score 65, 70 on any given week, especially Cameron Murray.
Yeah.
But so just what are your thoughts on my team, and where do you think the next stage for my side is to make it into the top 1,000 and push for as high as I can? And do you think that with me having free trades, I know we've had a lot of discussion about this, but do you think that I'm in a bit of trouble considering I got Twal and Sua Falungu, who are probably both close to sells next week or this week?
I think you're in trouble if you make those pivots too early. So I think this week you're sweet because even if Farlongo plays, then awesome. You don't need to trade him.
Yeah, I got
Twal
South.
isn't playing. Yeah, Twal's not playing, so there's no urgency to trade him. Plus, by the looks of things here, you can field the full side without making trades.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be considering it because that way you're going to let round 17 turn into round 18 and then round 18, round 19, round 20, you can legit trade one player around and be safe. It's because what I find is that if you get on low trades, like say 8 or less, that's this number that I keep talking about. You need to match up how many rounds that you need trades for over the period. So say for now, you've got 3 trades left, but 4 rounds to go and keep them matched. So that way you've always got one pivot a week that you can make instead of being restricted to none. This week, in theory, with the strategy, you'd be restricted to none, but you've got the positional coverage where you don't need to move. So you can literally let the season catch up to you now by 1 week. It not affect your scoring at all. And it's not even going to affect the price of the players you're looking to pivot.
Yeah.
So me personally, if I was in your shoes right now, I'd be going, okay, I'm not going to trade this week, but I'm going to see what happens with Twal at TLT, see what happens with Farlongo. I'd say Twal's more urgent than Farlongo because if he doesn't play at all, he's only 492k. You could potentially move him down to a cash out or up to a keeper, and you could just make that decision based on the week. Whereas Twal's got prime price. You could 131k. He could be your pivot to Olakau'atu.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just thinking because the one thing for me is next week, I can afford Max King to DCE, Olakau'atu, or Cam Murray. But if this week, let's say I was to go Twal to probably Eli Katoa, is the one move I'd be looking at. It kind of, for me, okay, I bring in a season keeper, but I can't get those fallen origin guns that I've spoken about, considering those 2 trades are probably there for big injury cover, which we've seen a lot of injuries. I think you were the one that told me we've had 23 injuries to fantasy relevant players in the last 3
since round 13.
Yeah.
23 injuries or suspensions, or I threw in there as well, TLT changes. Like something random happened where it's what the hell, this guy's not relevant anymore. He needs to go. And say throwing in DeBellins like that, 23. And it's to fantasy relevant players. Let's say you own half of them. Probably not, or everyone would own half, but it's basically saying that it's impossible to assume no impact. And the longer rounds you drag that out for, the higher likelihood of margin for error. So, if you've got just one trade to pivot each week, you might not always fill the hole for you, but at least it's better than sitting with dude, I can't tell you how many teams I've had come through and they've got no trades left. And I'm like, man, you haven't listened in my head, but I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is just a learning season for them. They're going to have problems, guaranteed. You're not going to have. And when you get to low trades, that's why the mentality has to switch there with the strategy. Is it can't be, I need to buy this player at this time because he covers round 19. Because if you've got 4 trades left, let's say, and you go, okay, I'm going to buy, for argument's sake, he's not playing this week. Let's just say Fainu. I'm going to buy Fainu this week because I need him for round 19 cover. Now you're planning 3 weeks ahead, where now if you make that trade, you've only got 3 trades left. But if Fainu gets injured, well, now you've got to make another trade to fix that trade. So because you've got low trades, that's so much more damaging to your overall plans now. So rather than planning for a trade for a 19 cover, you'd be more inclined to just wait until round 19 and make the decision then and fix other more urgent areas in your team. That's what I've done, and it works for me. I think I started Origin period at just over under 10,000, and I've moved up to 4,000 overall now. So it's I always make steady progress over this period. And in the run home, I've got 630k in the bank. So I can literally buy 3 guns straight off the bat if I wanted to, but I won't do that. It's always just one a week. Slowly progress the team. And I finished inside the top 500 for 8 years. So I'm hoping I can do it again this year.
Yeah. I do agree with that. And I do think your team's in a good thing. But just before we finish with 1 minute